Okay, and and then I need to upload that other recording too, but from Tuesday. But so Factory Talk, okay, is a piece of software that is part of the Rockwell Allen Bradley software. So it goes hand in hand with the RS Logic's 5000 software and the RS Links software. And actually the newer version of the software is actually called Studio 5000, and it kind of has them all tied together a lot more closely. The only catch is with the new Studio 5000 is it depends on what version of PLC that you have. And so the PLCs that we currently have in the classroom are still using this older software. So, it just depends on exactly which PLC to which software you can use, but they're really about the same. It's just a matter of they're just tied a little bit closer, and they got a few extra features, of course, with the newer software. But Factory Talk is basically a programming tool to build up what we call an HMI, or human machine interface. Okay, so the idea is we're going to have, a little computer screen. Usually they're a touch screen that's going to be mounted somewhere near the equipment that the operators can actually go in there and they can change parameters. They can start and stop the system. They can see what's happening. It's going to collect some data. They can see graphs and things like that happening. So all these different things that might, that could be like going on in there. So Factory Talk is just Allen Bradley's version of the software. So I don't know if you're familiar with like Siemens PLCs. I know somebody said this semester that they had a bunch of Siemens PLCs and things like that. Those Siemens has their own software. It's very, very similar to this in functionality. It's just a different software for a different company. All right, so the human machine interface, again, this is something that's going to be right there on the production line for the operators and the technicians, where they can go there, they can see data, they can start or stop the process, they can see alarm messages, things like that. On top of that, you can also use it for something called SCADA. And I don't know if we ever really discussed SCADA yet, but SCADA is an acronym that stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. All right, so this is kind of at the higher level, more at like the plant management level. So like inside the offices, for your CEO and those sorts of things, a vice president or whatever, where they can come in and they can just kind of see, well, how many of these items did we produce today? And, how much, what's our inventory? Are we backlogged, or, and just see supervisory, big picture kind of stuff going on. So the idea is that your PLC is monitoring this information, it's collecting this information, and then it can pass it up to the HMI, the human machine interface, and it can pass it on up to a SCADA system, which is actually going to collect all that data, put it in a database, and make it available for monitoring and for long-term analysis of what the company has done. Well, how many of these have we done in the past month? How many have we done in the past 6 months? What have we done in the past year? What have we done since COVID started? Did we do before COVID started? Right. And all this information will be collected and stored, and then can be utilized to make decisions on you know, what we're going to do in the future. All right, so so that's kind of what the factory talk is. Okay, it can do some computer screen animation. It makes an active control panel on a computer, or like a, you know, a touch screen sort of thing. It can collect and display the data. Okay, so over time we can do historical graphs and see what's happening. And, you know, you can also set alarms and things like that for it. Okay, so again, factory talk is just another part of the whole software, along with RS links and RS logics. So the next few slides I have here are just some screens to give you an idea of what you could do with the this factory talk software. All right, so you know, you can see here we have just lots of, you know, there's like 9 squares here, and each of them are displaying like just data information here. Okay, and then they can show a bar chart, or they can show like a meter sort of thing, and show, you know, whether you're operating in the red or in the green. And then like this right here, down here at the bottom, you know, these are actually like an up down thing where you could maybe adjust. You could have buttons that go up or down, or I guess maybe that one's just a status. Okay, a green triangle means it's moving up or something there. All right, so but so this looks like more of just displaying information. Again, information that's coming from the PLC, telling us what those values are, and you know what we can do. So here's another screen. This one actually has buttons for controls. So you see here, right, we have like a run button to run something here. I guess this is the caterpillar here. And then over here is the extruder, and you can run it. Includes like a laser, so we can activate the laser. We got little plus and minus buttons here, so we can increase and decrease the speed of these devices. Okay, and then we can actually have multiple screens here. So you see that there's a you know, I guess this is probably the main screen, and then you can go to alarm history to look at alarms. There's a fault reset button. There's a button here that'll take you to the work screen, and there's a button over here that takes you and shows you the extruder screen, which will have other options. So you can actually build multiple different screens or displays in here. You don't just have to have, oh, this is it, and this is all you can do. You can also get a little bit more advanced with it. All right, so what you see on this slide here is actually like something more from a CAD drawing. So you wouldn't actually draw this up in the factory talk software, but what you can do in the factory talk software is you can take a drawing and import that drawing into the factory talk software. And then you can, you know, take this is some kind of like chemical processing system here. And so we have valves, and so you need to like be able to change the you know, these are like valves and things here, and you need to maybe open or close the valve, either open and close it all the way. And or, you know, you can use an analog control and just open it a little bit or close it a little bit, that sort of thing. All right, so given that, you know, so like I say, you basically upload an image from like a CAD drawing or something, and then you can tie into the control aspects. All right. Here's another display that somebody had done. You know, so this one here, I think is, you know, both of these I think are kind of much nicer looking than this one. This one, you know, looks like something out of, you know, 1978 to me. It looks like it was running on a Commodore 64 or something, you know, so you know, I mean, it looks like it's probably functional and gives you everything you need, but you know, doesn't necessarily look all that nice. But like, you know, this one here or this one, you know, looks way more modern and you know, just kind of has that nicer view. So you can really spend a lot of time and come up with some very nice looking displays and things like that using this software. All right, so you know, given that we can do charts, okay, so we can do like I said, like time data or other types of charts in here, which can give us either measurement data, like this looks like it's actually measuring torque curves for some sort of motor or something here. And so we can, you know, we can do like graphical charts along with a lot of the other kind of things there. So it really really has a lot of flexibility. What to me the important thing for us to understand in this class, you know, I don't expect you to go in and try to create something that looks like this, which really lots of different things and looks pretty and it's got little doors in the back or whatever. All right, again, a lot of that probably came from another drawing program, and they just imported the drawing into the factory talk then. So, but the important thing is to be able to set up factory talk so it can communicate with the PLC. Okay, so I'm not looking for you when you come in and you do this lab to, you know, to go in and do some real fancy design. To me, the important thing is to understand how the RS Logix 5000 and factory talk actually communicate. That's kind of the important piece of this. All right, so one of the big things now, if you're going to have an HMI, I mean, we've done multiple times, and back in the PLC1 class, right, we talked about how you do like a fill-in circuit. And so for a fill-in circuit, you have a stop and a start and your control relay or whatever that is energizing the system, right? But now we still want to have a physical button. I got to have a physical button to start. I mean, you could argue maybe you don't need a physical button to start it, but boy, you need a physical button to stop it, right? If that system is running and for whatever reason you need it stopped now, you don't want to have to go fiddle around finding on some crazy screen which of these buttons do I press to stop it, right? So we want to have a big red e-stop kind of button there that you can just click on it and you know it's going to shut that system down. Okay, and so was there a question there? Or so what we need to do now is we need to include both a physical stop button and a physical start button. But then we also need a virtual start and a virtual stop that we can then activate with the HMI. So we can go, so we can have here on this HMI, and we can have, oh, well, look, here's, press the run button and it'll start. Okay. And, and then have it, if you press it again, send a stop or whatever, but we need to have a physical button. I always, in the classroom, I always want a physical button where I can press the button on the PLC and start the program, and press the stop button and stop the program. But we also want to, a lot of times it's much more convenient or whatever, because we're already at the HMI putting in values or something. So we just want to hit the button, it's like, I got a computer here. Can I start the PLC with this touch screen? Sure. Okay. And so this is the way you would lay out your ladder logic for a seal-in circuit with multiple stop buttons and multiple start buttons. Okay, so all you do, stop buttons always are going to be in series. Okay, whether they're virtual stops or physical stops, you're just going to wire, those are all going to be wired in series. The start buttons are always in parallel, because it doesn't matter which one of those you close, you just need to close one of them, and then it should energize the system. So when, so when we build our ladder logic, we basically, if we're building it for an HMI, we want it to include a virtual start and a virtual stop in it. Okay, so let me go ahead and let's see, let me stop this. Okay. I'm going to exit this and restart it. I was trying to. Uh-oh, I've made it mad now. There it goes. Hello. All right. So before we actually get into building the interface, right, we got to have a program, right, inside of our PLCs, because our PLC is going to be doing something, and then that information we want to pass over to the factory talk. Okay, so I took the liberty here of just creating a little program, and in this little program I have here, as you can see, right, I have my seal-in. And so notice here, if we look at program tags, okay, so if we come over and look at our tags, we have the physical red stop button on the PLC and the green start button on the PLC, right? So the alias, remember, the alias is basically a physically wired device into the PLC. So if you have an alias, you're saying that is a physical thing that I can put my hand on and touch. Okay. So I have a physical red stop button and a physical green start button. I also have a red light that I can visually see, right? I look at the PLC and boom, that light, I can turn that light on or I can turn that light off. And then I have a green light on the PLC that I can turn on and I can turn off, and I can visually see that, right? So those are aliases. Okay. Along with that, I have my virtual start and my virtual stop, which are data types of Booleans, right? It's a BIP, it's an on or off, right? The start button is open or the start button is closed, right? It's a 1 or a 0, a true, false, on, off, however you want to think about it. So it's a Boolean, it's 1 bit. Okay. Now, given that 1 bit, then there's no alias here because this thing is only inside of the computer. Okay, it's inside the PLC, okay, or it can be inside the HMI, or it's kind of both once we set up the HMI, but it's a Boolean. It doesn't exist in the real world, so there's no alias, right? There's no physical virtual button, right? That's, you know, contradiction in terms. You can't have a real physical virtual button, okay? And so I have a virtual start and virtual stop, which I'm going to then program into my HMI. Likewise, I got a virtual relay that is going to be my seal-in, so that I'm going to tie my seal-in into this virtual relay. So it's just going to be a 1 or a 0 inside of the memory locations inside of my PLC. And so when I energize the system, it becomes a 1. And when I de-energize or stop the system, it becomes a 0. All right. On top of that, I have some timers. So I'm going to have 2 timers here. A lot of times I call them tick-tock because I use them to kind of just, you know, just make a little flashing lights or whatever, like we kind of did on that previous lab where we just have the, you know, kind of like a railroad crossing sort of thing where you have the 2 lights, you know, tick tock, kind of thing like that. So I just kind of called these are timers, and I just kind of named them tick and talk. Then I created a counter, and I just called it count, where I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and let it count up. And then when it counts up to like 20, I'm going to reset it. And then I also threw in another counter, which I called loop, and I was just going to have it loop around after I counted 20. I don't know. I haven't actually included that in my ladder logic yet, but I created it. And then I had like a max count and a min count, because I was going to have it count up and count down, but I didn't quite get that working at this point either. Okay. But so when we look at my ladder logic here, then here in rung 0, right, to top rung, I have my seal-in. Remember, when you do your seal-in, whatever relay you're turning on here, whatever relay you're energizing as your seal-in, must be right here in your OR part of your logic. Okay, what, you know, this needs to be virtual relay because this is virtual relay. These have to match, or you're not going to seal in. Okay, so I've got my 2 different start buttons, my physical real start button, which you can see is local, that's that alias, right? It's wired in. And then the virtual start button, and then the virtual relay, which is going to keep it energized. And then all my other rungs are only going to be active if my system is energized, right? So if I hit a stop button, I de-energize my relay, and therefore the rest of these rungs aren't going to do anything. Okay, so right now then, what I'm going to do is I have my tick-tock timers, and I'm just going to run for about half a second. So it's just going to be, you know, basically a 1 second tick-tock, tick-tock. That'll be a 1 second sort of thing, right? So 500 milliseconds for each one. So when this timer is done, it starts the talk timer. And when the talk timer is done, I'm going to, number 1, count up. So I'm going to increase my counter. And number 2, I am going to reset the tick so that, you know, the clock still keeps going back and forth. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Okay, so these things are just going tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. But, you know, basically once a second, I'm going to increase this count. So after 20 seconds, this thing's going to count up to 20. And when it hits 20, right, when it hits the preset, the count is done. I'm going to reset the counter back to 0. All right. So I just wanted to have something that maybe we could plot a graph on. All right. So given that, this is my program. Any questions about the program? Okay. So again, right now, all the program is going to do is that I've got my sealing piece up here with both a real start and stop button and a virtual start and stop button. And I'm just going to seal this in. And then it's just going to go tick tock, advance the counter, tick tock, advance the counter, tick tock, advance the counter. After the counter gets up to 20, it's going to reset the counter back to 0 and start all over again. So it's just going to like count, you know, from 1 to 20, go back to 0 and 1 to 20. All right. So given all that, I'm going to try to download this now. I don't know if they got the PLC set up yet. I haven't heard from them. Looks like we have a 151 sitting out here. So I'm going to, so he's got it set up here. I just hadn't heard any email come in or anything yet, but the phone call that did come in was not him. All right, so it looks like it's downloading okay. We'll go back to run mode. All right, so now I have downloaded this program to the PLC, and you can see by the green, right, that the stop button is a 1, meaning it's closed. Well, remember, right, we physically wired the stop button to be a 1, right? We physically wire it that way, so it's closed by default. But this is a virtual button, and by default it's 0. But what we can do is we can actually right click on here and do a Control T, or just select it when we right click, and turn that on also to make the virtual stop a 1. All right, so we can do, just hit Control T, and you can toggle that back and forth. And the same thing for this. So I can come to my virtual start, I can do Control T, and that energizes the relay, right? And then take that back off once you do it, because your start button, right, only needs to be high for a minute. So meanwhile, you can see now, right, the timer is counting, and my counter is counting up. Now it hits 19. And then when it hit 20, it was only 20 for like a microsecond, right? And then one scan, it was 20 for one scan, and then it got reset, okay? Or even not even a whole scan, really. It was 20. Once it's 20, it immediately is getting reset by this rung 4, okay? So in the same scan, it's actually in the same scan, the counter hits 20, and with a clock cycle of the CPU, you know, just a microsecond, it's reset back to 0. Okay, so it, you know, so you never really see the number 20 show up here. It hits 19, and then the very next thing that the PLC does is reset it back to 0. And that's why you'll never see it actually hit 20, because it only hit 20 for that microsecond to go from rung 3 to rung 4. All right, so there it is, it's running. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to open up Factory Talk. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, and I would normally just hit my Windows key and like type in like factory, and I should be there, but you guys can't see that screen because it pops up on my other screen. So So I'm just going to go through the options here in the menus, because that does show up there, and you can see it says Factory Talk View Studio. Okay, so I'm going to start that. So I'm going to start Factory Talk View Studio, and it's coming up on my other screen. So I'll drag it over here once it comes up. Still trying to load here, apparently. All right, so let me cancel that piece for a minute. All right, so first thing it does is it comes up with this Factory Talk View Studio View Machine Edition. Okay, so this is kind of the screen, and then by default, it should actually then also pop up this new/open machine edition application. All right, now here is one huge issue with Factory Talk and our setup at school. It's not really Factory Talk directly, but it's a combination of the way Factory Talk was programmed and the way our school computers are set up. As you're aware, right? If you put anything on the C drive on our computers in the classroom at midnight, they automatically get wiped. And that's kind of a nice thing for us at school, because if a virus does get installed accidentally, all you got to do is reboot that computer, which they do automatically at midnight, which is why it gets wiped at night. And you reset that computer and the virus is gone. Okay, so it's a really, it's kind of a nice feature to kind of keep viruses and things off our computers. However, this software does not give you a choice to save anything on the D drive or on a USB drive. It only saves it in the C drive. So it's kind of annoying that way, because our C drive gets wiped if you have to reboot the computer. Okay, so if you want to keep a copy of it, I kind of show you at the end of the slides where you have to go to save that. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in and I'm going to create a brand new HMI interface. So I'm going to click on the new, and I'm just going to give this a name. You know, and you can put in a description, which is really nice. What's today, the 7th, I think, or is today the 8th? I don't even know anymore. Okay, yeah, 7th. Okay, so 10/7, and then 10/7 classroom example. You know, it's always good that they give you this ability to create a big description of what this is. So it's nice to use that. Now, when you look down here, of course, I'm content with using English language. If I try to use anything else, I'll be in trouble, right? Personally. But when you look at the resolution, okay, they actually have this, Allen Bradley sell these touchscreen monitors, and we actually have them mounted in the big gray cabinets in C202. Okay, but those cabinets, we're not going to drag those cabinets all the way over to C205 for a couple reasons. Number one, they're big and heavy, and I don't like to move them that far. Number two is they need a 3-phase voltage, and we don't have 3-phase in C205. So, but so we won't be using those touch screens for this. But you know, if you have one of the various different touch screens, you know, you just select which one you have, and it'll automatically make the screen sizes to fit that. So what I'm going to do here is just come down here and select one of these sizes here, and because of my I'm going to choose the 1152 by 854 for this example. In the classroom, I'd probably just go ahead and go with the 12 by 10 1280 by 1024 value here, but I think on the screen it might show up a little bit better if I choose slightly smaller one for today. All right, so what this is going to do is set the display size of our HMI. Okay, so that's what this is doing. But again, if you actually have a physical HMI like the ones we have in the cabinets in C202, you know, you would have to select the appropriate one, because it also ties in the touch screen information so that you can press the button. All right, we're just going to run this on the local PC. So, you know, those last three are just to run it locally here. So, and then we're going to say create. Okay. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to say create. And it takes a little while to generate everything that it needs to kind of, you know, get going here. So, you know, it'll take a few minutes. And so while it's doing this, what it's doing is just creating lots of different files. So it's not like just one single file like a Word document that it's creating. It's creating all the different things that it needs for this to actually work. And then what we're going to do, right, is we need to tie it into our PLC. So while it's doing that, let me flip back, right? Here, this PLC has been running this whole time. All right. And matter of fact, I wish I would have had my loop in here now. So, yeah, I'm going to have to stop this a minute. I'm going to go offline. I added that other counter, that loop counter, to count. So actually, I don't even need that. I just want to, hello, what did I do? I'm going to put a counter here, and I'm going to advance that loop counter because I really would have liked to know how many times this thing's looped around. Okay. On here. So I'm just going to have my loop counter, and I don't know, won't do anything there, but so I'm going to just download this again. So while that factory talk was doing whatever here, I just want to add this loop counter here to know how many times I've reset, right? The loop counter is going to tell me how many times I've reset my first counter. And so when we get back to run mode, all right, so now remember, I got to come back and make my virtual stop a 1, and then I need to toggle my virtual start so I can get it counting again. Okay, so there it is, it's counting. It's going to count up here to 20, and then it should advance the loop counter. There we go. So we've advanced the loop counter. All right, so we'll let that continue to run. And then now, you know, remember when we set up a PLC, I kind of think it's like when I read a murder mystery, right? The first thing you got to do, you know, if you read a murder mystery, is you got to go to the end of the book and figure out you know, who done it, right? Well, maybe you don't read yours that way, but to me, that's the way Allen Bradley software works. So remember, like the first thing we have to do when we start a new program is we have to come over here in our controller organizer and go to the very bottom and add like our IO, right? We have to come in here and say new module or whatever, and we have to add in all our modules in there. So, you know, and that's at the very bottom or at the very end of this controller organizer. Well, when we go to factory talk, it's kind of the same thing. So we don't have to add the modules, but we have to tell it how to talk to the PLC. Okay, so you have to come all the way, you have this Explorer here. You got to come all the way down to the bottom where it says factory talk links communication setup. Okay, now, before we do that, one of the things you want to make sure you full screen this. I've noticed in the classroom, a lot of you open up RS Logics or whatever, and you're doing stuff and you don't full screen size it. Allen Bradley, and I mean, I don't do that with a lot of programs myself, but Allen Bradley software really seems to like, I want your entire screen. So I highly recommend that you full screen this, and probably also the RS Logic software too. But anyhow, so what we want to come over here to the communication setup. We're going to open this. So this is like the first thing we're going to do. Okay, is we're going to come over here to communication setup. And open that, and it's going to pop up a window. Now we've already full screen this main application here of Factory Talk View Studio. And seems to be taking an extra long time here. All right. So I'm not sure. I'm running it through the VPN today, so I don't know if that's normally it's not. Oh, I'm sorry. It popped up the window over here. That's why it was okay. So popped up this configuration wizard window on the other screen, and I wasn't looking over there. Okay, so you know, so we can, one of the things you can do is you can import a runtime, okay, or copy a configuration that you already have. But we're going to just create a brand new configuration, because remember, our C drive is going to lose anything once we do a reboot anyhow. So we're going to have to do create a new configuration, click on finish. All right. Now, once you've done that, you see like your normal links communication stuff here. But what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to right click on this and add a device. Okay. So you're going to have to add a device. Now, what device do we add? Well, go back to RS links. Okay. Okay. So remember, RS links always shows you everything that you have. So if we come over here and we look at our RS links, right, and we look at our PLC. Okay, so here's my PLC I'm talking to, which is this 151 PLC. And so when you look at this PLC, you look at what Ethernet device it has. Okay, so if we come down here and look at the bus, we see, let's see, where's the Ethernet adapter? There it is. Okay, so this is what we have. We have a 1769 L23E QB1, which is the compact logic controller, right? And it's got a built-in Ethernet port. That's what this is telling us. That's what we have. 1769 L23 QB1 Ethernet port. What version is it? Well, if you just right click on this, since it's actually part of the built into that. You have to come up here, you go to device properties, and it tells us it's revision 20. Okay, so there's no guessing here. All this information is in RS links. You just got to open up RS links and look at it. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here, and what I'm looking for is a 1769. Okay, and they put them in, order here. 1769 L23E, hit the plus symbol, and now notice there's one with a revision 19 and one with revision 20. Which one do we have? Well, we just looked at that. It's revision 20. So so when you come in here and you select this, again, there's no, gosh, what do I have? Okay, go to RS links and it will tell you exactly what you have. So now I'm going to add this. Okay, the IP address, I done forgot it. So I'll flip over to RS links. It's 10.101.201.151. So I put that in 101.201.151. Now it wants to know what slot it's in. Well, gosh, let's go back to RS links one more time and let me look. Okay, and it's telling me that it's in port 1. It says 01 there, so I think it'll actually work with a 0 or a 1 in this case, but let's try 1. All right, so now you can see it shows up here, and I'm going to expand it over here, and I'm going to take my, I'm going to highlight the PLC, right, which is slot 0. And I'm going to add this. Now, when you give it a name that kind of means something. So I'm going to call this my PLC 151. Okay. So what you do is you got to take this, highlight this, click over here. You see the word apply here? Okay. By the way, when you do this, usually it pops up like this as a small window. And you see this OK down here? Sometimes you don't see the OK because the window is so small. See, well, apparently it's staying there today, but sometimes you can't even see that OK. So the first thing you got to do is make this big. Make it completely as big as you can and make sure that you can see the word OK down there. So you come over here, you add this shortcut. Okay, and I like to just kind of say, well, this is my PLC 151, or you can say Compact Logic 151 or whatever. And then come over here and click on the PLC. Now you see that the word apply is no longer grayed out. Okay, so now you apply this. Okay, and say yes. All right, so you've applied it. Now you see the word OK. If you do not click OK, guess what? It's not OK, right? You must click that OK, or you just wasted all that time and you're going to have to do it all again. All right, so make sure you click this word OK. If you don't click OK, it's just not OK. All right, so now that we've done that, then we can come up here and look at graphics displays, and they actually give us 4 displays by default. They give us like an alarm display, diagnostics, information, and then of course our main display. So if you click on the main display, you're going to get this kind of little like drawing pad. It's just an open pad. And now up here we have all these lovely tool bars where we can just create lots of different things here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a momentary push button, and I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to draw, and this is my push button, and this is going to be my virtual stop button. Okay, so what I can do here is I can select some colors, okay, and some various styles. I can make it a rectangle or I can make it a circle, okay, and circle, and I can make it either normally open or normally closed. Now remember, stop buttons should be normally closed. So I'm going to make this normally closed. And then I'm going to come over to states. Now you have two states. It can either be a 1 or a 0. So if it's, because it's a push button, right? It's either on, oh, it's either 1 or 0. And what we can do is for the two different states, you can actually set different colors. So for state 0, I can come in here and I can set my color, and it's popping my color in on another window here, but I'm going to select a color. Okay. And I can't even drag that over. It's just there, but it, and I'm going to make it a slightly different color for the border. This is for state 0, and for state 1, I'm going to make it more of an orange color. Okay. And you can give it a caption if you want. So this is going to be my virtual stop. Okay, and you can change the size, font size, and the colors and all that kind of stuff on there if you want. All right, and you can hit apply and see what that looks like. All right, and here's the big thing, connections. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to connect this to my tag inside my PLC. Right, and this is, you know, without this, the, you know, the HMI is useless, right? The whole thing was we need to tie it into our PLC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this ... over here, and it pops up a window. And when you look at this, you see virtually nothing in here. If you look under system, there's some things here that you can't do anything with. There's dates and times, okay, and stuff, but that's about it. So there's nothing in here. So what we got to do is we have to refresh all folders. Okay, now when we do that, you see that PLC 151 show up that I added under communications. Okay, but to see it, you're going to have to refresh all folders. But now that I do that, you can see it shows me online. And if I click on this online and then I come to my main program, I can now see all my tags. So you can see here is all the tags in my program: my virtual stop, my virtual start, my virtual relay, my red light, my green light, my I guess the counters aren't looking there, but like here's the counter, right? And so I can see my accumulator of my counter is there. Okay, so I can see everything on my PLC. Okay, and so this is my virtual stop. So I'm going to select virtual stop and say okay. And now it shows up in here. Okay. And then I can say, okay, now if you hit okay, you are applying. You don't have to hit apply and then okay. You can just hit okay and it will apply it. All right. So, but there's my virtual stop button. Okay. And we can move it around some if you want. And then I'm going to grab another one of these. And this is going to be my start button. Okay. And so I'll maybe set the color to green, some kind of greenish color here. Again, you can't see the colors things showing up there, but it's kind of a really dark green there. And I can, you know, call this start. And Then I go to connections. I don't have to apply on each screen. You can do all your settings and then just click OK when you're done. And this is going to be my virtual start. And I click OK, and there it is. All right, so now I haven't done anything else, but I'm just going to show you how we can test this now. So all I have is my start and my stop. And I'm going to flip back over here to this window, and I'm going to make this window a little bit smaller, hopefully, so we can kind of see it. I mean, I might have to make this one smaller also, so we can kind of see both of them at the same time here. But now, I mean, right now, these things, I'm in design mode, so I'm not doing anything. But if I come over here, there's a play button. Okay, so if I click on play, it says test display there. And so you can see that it actually set these. And so now if I hit the start button, or if I hit the stop button. So if I hit the stop button, you see that the virtual relay shut off, right? So the program is no longer running there. But if I hit the start button, you can see the timer has started. Okay, and you can kind of see the text, but only when I click on them. Okay, so that's because of the colors and stuff I chose, I guess. But all right, so if I hit start, you can see it start. And then I hit stop, and you can see that it's stopping over here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start, let it run, but I'm going to now hit this stop button to go back to edit mode. And now I'm just going to kind of show you some other things we can do. So we can come over here and we can put in like numeric displays, right? And so this one here is going to be the count. Okay, so this is going to be my count accumulator. Hello, it's running slow here. Okay, there it goes. So this is going to be my count accumulator. And then I'll put another one below that, which is going to be the loop. So go to tag. This is going to be my loop accumulator. Okay. And, you know, and you can change the colors and all that, but, you know, I don't want to waste a lot of time just changing that kind of stuff, change the font and all that. All right. And then we can also come in here and we can do a gauge. Okay. So we could do a gauge. And this gauge is going to be my count. And my count goes between 0 and 20. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the max value to be 20. All right. And then you can kind of play with some threshold sort of things. And so you can say things like the threshold value of 5. And you can set the color, okay, and make it blank. Well, let's make it, I don't know, 15. All right, and we'll make that blank. All right, so we can play some games like that. And again, I'm just going to tie this to my count accumulator. Hello. I don't know why. There it goes. It's kind of slow moving there. All right, so so you can see now the gauge is going between 0 and 20. And I've set that threshold in there, so we'll see what that happens. And then we can also do a chart. Okay, we can do bar graphs if you wanted, or we can do trends. Okay, and so I can come over here and I can do a trend. And when you do a trend, you can do it a couple of different ways. You can just use a clock. So you can use a start and stop time, and you can set the time span to be the width of the graph, basically. And then I'm going to set my y-axis, okay? And you can set custom values. So I want this to go between 0 and 20. Okay. And then you can, or you can set it to be controlled by a tag if you want. And then you come to connections and you can have multiple graphs at the same time. So I'm going to grab number one. I'm going to grab my counter. Need to just give it a few seconds here. I don't know why it takes so long. I don't remember this normally happening, so it might be something to do with my VPN. Normally it doesn't take this long to respond. There it goes. Okay, so that is my program.account accumulator. And I'm going to grab a second pin, which is going to be my loop count. And my loop count's probably well over 20 by now anyhow, so that I may have to make that 50 or something. All right, there it goes. Okay, so there's the loop count accumulator. So if we come back to pins, this is where we can set the colors. Okay, so you can pick your colors for these and, you know, mark whether they're visible or not, things like that. I want to look and see what my loop count actually is right here. Say my loop count is 60. My accumulator is 68. I'm going to reset it to 0 so that it'll fit on the chart there. Okay, so all right, so there's my graph. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the graph piece a little bit larger. And then I'm going to come back up here to test the display and let this run. All right, so you can see like there's the counter. And you can see the counter, right? It's counting up. So it's going from 0 to 20. Okay. And so you can see it on the graph. You can see the count here, 17, 18, 19, and then it gets reset. So it drops back down. But when it drops back down, then the green jumped up one, right? So the green is the loop count. And so you can see it graphing, you can see the gauge, you can see the actual display numbers, right? If I hit stop, then the graph is still graphing, but it's not counting because I hit the stop button and I stop the counter, and then I can hit start the counter back up, and it'll start advancing again. Now, one thing to notice, like when I hit that start button, you notice there was a bit of delay before it actually started again, because there's communication delay between your HMI and your PLC. Your PLC needs to be running at what we call real time. It's getting its data and it's, you know, it's reading in all those sensors. Every scan, it reads in all your sensors and all your inputs, and then it calculates your ladder logic, and then it sends your output. However, the HMI is a human machine interface, and it's not all that time critical because, you know, we're kind of slow anyhow compared to a computer running, a scan every, millisecond or less, right? It may take us, half a second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds or 10 seconds to type in a change or hit a button or something like that. So there can be a time delay between the HMI numbers and adjustments to where they get sent to the PLC. Okay. But the PLC itself is continuously reading all the inputs and responding, calculating the outputs and responding to that. And so, it may take a few seconds for the HMI to actually send a change over to it. But that's not considered time critical. All right, but so is there any questions here? Just kind of showing you what you can do with this Factory Talk software. Again, my focus for this class is to be able to get it functioning. Okay, it doesn't have to look, gorgeous. I don't expect you to spend hours trying to do these fancy designs like some of them I showed you in the slides there. All right, you look at these slides, some of these look pretty fancy, and it took quite a bit of time to set these up. I'm not looking for that. I'm more concerned than you just showing me a functioning interface, okay? Not that, oh gosh, that's wonderful, looks great, but you spent 3 days doing it, okay? So, because to make them look really nice is going to take some time. We're going to set these up in class. We're going to test them for 5 or 10 minutes and we're done with it. So, I don't want you to waste a lot of time just trying to make it look so pretty. Okay, it's the functionality and the communications between the PLC and the actual HMI. That is the critical piece that we want to make sure we understand how to make that work. Okay. All right, so that is the Factory Talk software.